Thanks for coming back for another episode of The Adventures of Neon Swell, episode 11, Time-Lapsed. In this episode, I take the Divinacell core you see here and place it along the remaining deck. I do this using the methods we've seen before in the previous episodes using thickened epoxy. And of course, it starts with a light layer of epoxy. Once the top deck has received a layer of thickened epoxy, I go ahead and start adding each subsection of the Divinacell core. As you may be able to tell, I've cut each piece of the core in a specific shape and keyed and labeled each one so I know exactly where they're going to be placed on the top deck. Now I've cut them in these smaller pieces so they do conform to the angles and curves that I require. Oops. There was a little bit too much curve in that section of the boat, so I ended up having to cut that piece in half so it would conform a little bit better. And of course, my GoPro receives a few more smudges. I was extremely happy about how the core came out when it was placed on this top deck. The lines came out very smooth and everything fit according to plan, which I was pretty much surprised about. I then began to attach the remaining galley bulkhead and its corresponding shelf for the 5-gallon water jug that will be placed there for drinking water. As with all added pieces to the boat, the process is the same, and I use lots of thickened epoxy along with a few layers of 1708 tape. So the last large piece that I have to insert into the boat is the third bed that you see here. You can also see the layers of 1708 tape that will be used to cover each joint. I'm not really considering this a full bed, it's more like a quarter berth. I begin to fill the seam between the third bed and the hull of the boat with thickened epoxy, and you'll see from some future clips that I place a layer of 1708 under the bed seam and fill in more of this thickened epoxy so that it doesn't spill underneath. I go over the recently added thickened epoxy with this squeegee you see here to make sure everything is flush and smooth for the next layer of 1708. Nothing beats a sweat-soaked epoxy-filled Tyvek suit, some 100-degree summer weather, and a tight squeeze. After the bed is installed, I begin to add the stovetop burner holder using these layers of 1708 and this wood box you see here, cut and measured to the exact dimensions of the Origo stove. And there's the Origo stove. So that wraps it up for episode 11. As you can see there, it's a bit of a tight squeeze, but I managed to install that piece. Thank you all for watching, and be sure and come back next episode where I do a bit of sanding and cut and install some hatches on the freshly added pieces.